Hello, everybody, and welcome to part 3 of our epic podcast on the reptilians. I hope you've been enjoying it so far, and this time we're going to go right to the end of times with this one. Before we do, take a look at the next 30 seconds preview of my new album, Bad Wiring. I hope you enjoyed that little taste, and if you did, I want to give you the whole track. I want to give you a ringtone and the wallpaper. All you have to do is go to my Facebook page, Will Pender Rocks, find my post, Will Pender Bad Wiring, like and share it, and I will send you free track, ringtone, and wallpaper, and at random I'm giving away free copies of the album, and if you want the whole thing, you can buy it at my website, willpender.net. You can also stream it right here on YouTube. Of course, there's ads, and it's not mobile friendly if you're on data, but nevertheless, you can listen to it, and you can also get it on iTunes and all the other regular online music stores starting at the end of next week. And with that said, we're going to jump back into the final part of our epic podcast on the reptilians.
Now, do you think that, the saying, right, these satanic symbols, do you think that's just a different word for draconic symbols?
Okay,
Like,
I think they could be one and the same.
This is a mixture of sci-fi and mysticism, that we're talking about aliens and spirituality?
It could be as simple as it could be. Yeah, I mean, it could be. I think in a lot of times it's just
because I find the spiritual side for myself is hard for me to navigate that end of it. I find the water is just so fucking muddy on that end of things, and this whole thing is so complicated as it is, that there's definitely these hardcore spiritual aspects. Even like you look at the Aztecs and their bloody orgies of death. Who was their chief deity? The Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent.
Yeah, well, in fact, the whole serpent thing has even gone into China. Like China, they had this big thing for some kind of reptilian god. I mean, reptiles are big within a lot of cultures for religion with that kind of angle. And the thing that, like, if we're going to talk about it on a spiritual level, right? I mean, there's this thing that said that there's this this big spiritual war that's going on, or it's coming. Sure. And it could very well be happening right now. Like, we're here on Earth, right? And you got the reptilians, the elite, the royal bloodline, the draconian Luciferian group, right? And they say Satan owns the world. Well, look at it. All the political people who own the world, and they're apparently on this side, right? They're the one who are granting the wishes of people who want these big spotlight jobs in the music industry and the movie industry. And you make a deal with the devil, and you get this and you get that. And at the same time, it seems like for God's people, it's all about not giving in and staying true to his words. Like, this is the devil's place, but your task is to not be tempted, is to stay true, is to stay, not give in.
Which is all stuff that the Catholic Church has told us.
Yeah, well, there's that too, right?
If I'm just gonna come straight out and say this: if there's a war, physical or spiritual, we've already fucking lost.
Well,
if there's such a war, like, let's face it, the levels of control that are involved are so deep, are so ingrained, right down, some would argue, to our very DNA, that personally, I don't know if this is the reality of the situation, we just might have to suck it up and fucking go along with it, because I don't know if we're going to have any choice one way or the other.
Well, the way that, it's looking at right now, I mean, I honestly don't know if we're at the end of times or, if you look around at all the shit that's happening, and I don't know if that's just because the media is more prevalent or whatever, but there's been lots of things that...
Stuff seems to be ramping up.
Oh, yeah, and you could arguably say, like, that, this is a sign that correlates with something in the Bible that they said would happen, near the end times. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that going on.
But now those claims have been made for the last 1,000 years.
They have been, but I think everybody would agree that shit has just ramped up crazy. Even in the past year, let alone, like, the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, the past year has been fucking nuts.
Oh, it has been, but let's agree that the Crusades were pretty fucking crazy.
Oh, they were. They were, right? But here's what I came across, and I'm, I guess if I had to lean a certain way, I guess this kind of makes sense. Basically, we right now might have, like, alien DNA in us, right?
Almost certainly.
Almost certainly. And that's not to say, I mean, we're still a soul. We're still, it doesn't make us bad because we have that DNA. But in the end, we choose good or evil. And they say at the end, and we're getting there. Like, we're getting to almost like a literal transition here in some cases, where they say that in order to operate within the economics of the world, everybody's going to have to get chipped. Right, and this chip is going to be the mark of the beast. And basically, if you get chipped and you go on with this way of life, then you forfeit your soul because now you're within the devil's...
Yeah, but how does a computer chip steal your soul, right? I mean, for me...
I don't think it's a computer chip. I think it's going to be like, if you sign... if this is the way it works, I think that is just going to be the basic agreement that now you serve what he's doing, right? The overlord, whoever that ends up being. It's going to be a false prophet.
I think one of the Rockefellers, was it David or JD? Anyway, one of the Rockefellers wrote a book, and it very clearly states in that book that that's their end goal, is to computer chip everybody, so your finances, your social security, social insurance number here in Canada, your everything is tied to that chip. So if you go off the rails, like what you and I are doing and what our listeners are doing, and start going down a disruptive path, they just flick a little switch, and all of a sudden now you can't get into the school or the library. You can't buy groceries or gas. You can't apply for work because your chip's been red flagged.
And that's exactly what I was getting at, is that, yes, it's just a chip, but by getting chipped, you basically serve them. Right?
Sign here on the dotted line, and it turns out that it wasn't just a end user agreement as much as it was a Faustian pact.
Exactly. You're a servant now, quite literally, right?
Well, we're servants now.
We are, but I mean that's a little. I mean,
a chip almost sounds. I mean, I got one on my bank card. It's very convenient. Tap and go.
That chip's convenient, but like if we were to have those chips and we did a podcast like this and they got wind of it, we might be. They might have a button that just blows us up. I mean, you don't know, right? So like. That's what they're talking about.
They got one now. It's a big red one in the White House.
Well, apparently, at the end of the time, right? I mean, those who believe in Jesus.
Now, are we
God,
talking about the end of time or the end of times?
I guess you would say the end of
times. In the religious connotation.
The religious commentary.
So not when the physical dimension of time.
No.
Okay.
We could be gone before that if any of this is true.
Oh, yeah.
And what that would mean is that when this is all happening, when the shit actually hits the fan, apparently Jesus is going to come back, and those who did believe in him and worshipped him or whatever, the rapture happens, right? You get saved. Everybody else, you're fucked. And the way that this is supposed to...
As long as the Jews don't crucify him again.
Well, maybe he'll come back with superpowers this time, right? Like, I proved myself before.
They really worked out well for him last time, walking on water. He should have ran out in the middle of a lake or something.
Well, I guess the whole point, I think, was that he died for us, right? Like, for our sins, to get our sins forgiven. But, I mean, that's a whole different angle that goes
that's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other podcast. So, now the good news is... apparently, now this is something that prophets get, they are communicated even today. They're communicated this apparently from God, is that even in these times, as bad as it is and as bad as you feel and the shit that happens to you, apparently the people who are here in the end of times are what God claimed to be his best people. I guess the people that he believed would have the best chance. Like, of
course we are, because the rest of them are dead.
The rest of them, I guess, wouldn't have been good candidates for this. I mean, if you look back in the Middle Ages, just how fucking brutal people were. So as bad as we are.
Yeah, but now that's an interesting statement to make and then gloss over. As you look back in the medieval times of how brutal people were, it was because of two things: the crown and the church.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the reality of the situation.
But that's also because it's interesting, because you're looking at the crown, now you're looking at the Illuminati bloodline, right? And you're looking at the church, and apparently the
and again,
Catholic
you're looking
church.
at the Illuminati bloodline.
Exactly, right? So you're always looking at the Illuminati bloodline. That's like at the heart of all this negative stuff.
Here's the bit of comfort that I take away from this. All right? If such a monolithic conspiracy exists that a different species of super intelligent creature is in control of mankind and has been for decades, centuries, millennia, or longer, then that tells me one thing, regardless of the time span. They fucking need us.
Oh, yeah. Of course. We're the perfect minions. Right? Everybody needs minions. I mean, if you're going to be all-powerful and, so...
But if it was just minions, I would build robots.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe
if it was just minions, I would just clone more Greys.
I guess it doesn't feel as satisfying as controlling somebody,
Do you think that's what it is? Like, that's like, when you discuss these things, and again, I mean, there's no way in the world that we can sit here and state categorically that any of this is true. But over the last 60 years, there has been such a plethora of information come out and become available, and then historically we've gone back and picked apart little things from those people who've had their eyes wide open. It seems to indicate that there is such a conspiracy, and if that's the case, and they are so advanced, then what is it about us that they need? What is it really? It can't be just lording over a bunch of insects.
No. Well,
right? There has to be some, and that's the part that has me so much intrigued. I think the biggest thing that I don't like about the Illuminati is that they haven't invited me to join.
Yeah, well, it's not so bad when you're on that side of the fence.
Exactly. Everybody can just goose step along together.
But what I think it is and I got to think about this. Why would anybody want to do that? And I think,
I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but it is a.
It is.
It's a deep question. What is it about us that they would fucking need?
It reminds me of a little. It wasn't a real story, but I guess it was a lesson to be learned, right? It was just a little story to tell a lesson.
A parable?
A parable. And what it was this, I believe it was a coyote. And it was a coyote or something like that, and he was in this river, or an alligator. Yeah, it was probably an alligator. And he was in the river, and there was like some other animal that wanted a ride across.
Oh, you're talking about the scorpion and the whatever other animal you want to put in.
Yeah, it was something like that. And anyway, he gave him a ride.
He gets out into the middle of the
thing, and he stings him.
And he gets out into the middle of the river, and then the scorpion stings him. And he says, "Why would you do that?" And he says, "I can't help it. It's my nature."
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think evil is inherently evil. It doesn't need to, it doesn't need to really have a reason.
But now we established early on that just because you're a reptilian, right? You can't be racist now or specious. Just because you're a reptilian doesn't mean that you're inherently evil.
No.
And, I mean, I'll just dip into this for a moment. There is a whole... I don't even know what to call it. There's a whole story that's told from the perspective of a former member of security at Dulce.
Okay.
And it's I can't remember his name. Something Rodriguez. And
that narrows it down.
Yeah, right. And I think there are other things that were mirrored. Their comments are mirrored by Phil Schneider as well, but particularly the security guy who said that because he kind of corroborated Phil Schneider's human alien war story, and went on to say that while that was happening, there was other things going on, and the reason why that went on was that there were certain members of the worker class of reptilians, who, or draconians, I think was the term that was used, that didn't agree with the way that things were going. But because the royal class decreed it so, and the leader class arranged it so, and the warrior class enforced it so, that it happened. And that there were certain members from each of those classes that were attempting to stop and or break away from the established system here on planet Earth.
I do think that you're right, and I do, like, I'm kind of thinking back now to what I said earlier, in that there are different groups of reptilians. You're a reptilian. You're not necessarily a Luciferian, right? Just like if you're a human, you could be Catholic, you could be,
Buddhist or Muslim or Jewish or whatever, yeah.
Right? And, I just think that the one that we hear about most is the Luciferian thing, because that's a big deal. That's a big war that's going on right now. So you just hear more of it. Something I want to point out that's that I came across that I found really interesting. If we're gonna try and think about this in a realistic way, that here's a nugget of what could be possible truth, that this is a thing, right?
Sure.
And what that is there's a symbol called a caduceus.
Yes.
And it's a medical symbol. We use it today.
The two intertwined serpents.
The two intertwined serpents that form what looks like a DNA strand.
Yeah, it's a helix symbol that very much mirrors a segment of DNA.
Yep, and they're coiled around a staph receptor, and it has wings. And there's three things about this that makes it interesting. You have a combination of snakes, which are reptilians. You have DNA. You have a scepter, which is an image of power.
Sure.
And you have wings, which are like the angels or the gods.
Or just ascension or aboveness.
Aboveness. And don't you find that an interesting group of symbols for a medical symbol? Like, it almost don't seem like it has anything related at all.
It very much is. And it's, where does a symbol come from? It comes from Egypt. On the headdresses of, well, at least one pharaoh, but I think it's several pharaohs. What do we have? But the headdress itself is made to look like the hood of a cobra. And then out of the head, or out of the top, arguably out of the third eye chakra of the headdress, comes a serpent that pokes out, and then, or it comes out of the top and it kind of rests on the third eye.
Now that you mention chakras and stuff like that, even that's an interesting point.
Oh, I went there.
Oh, I know. But and it's because, back then, meditation was such a big thing. Shamanism, getting in touch with your spirit side, the chakras, the spiritual building. And if you look at life right now, the life that you pretty well have to live in to live, to pay your bills, to be here, because let's face it, if you're not paying bills, you're squatting, and then they'll kick you out on the street, right? Or lock you up or whatever. So today, everything is a distraction. TV is a distraction. Video games, I love them, but there's a distraction. Media, computers, and when we're not doing that, we're working our asses off 40 hours a week just so that we can pay to do all these things over and over and over again. Like, there is no going out and getting in touch with nature. I mean, you got to go right out of your way to do that, right? You can't, for example, say, okay, well, I'm going to go out in the woods and I'm going to build my own little house with my own two hands. I'm going to chop down however many trees I need, build my own house, and I'm going to live here. Because somehow the fucking government owns it, or you're squatting, or whatever.
In Canada, we call it crown land.
Right.
Belongs to the crown.
So you can't do that. Like, you're expected in society
not without paying taxes.
Yeah, you are expected today to go and do 40 hours a week of, let's face it, most jobs are bullshit, right? There's a couple people at the top of a company making a ton of fucking money and paying you pennies to do that all week. That's the truth. That, not that I'm for communism, but that's what our fucking capitalism has turned out to. One person making millions of dollars off the backs of thousands of people. That's fucking capitalism, right? Like, I go to work 40 hours a week, and I make the company I work for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. I don't see nothing close to that when I get paid. But the guy at the top, he gets it, right?
Sure.
That's how it fucking works. And so we're overworked, we're underpaid. And so what do you do? After
I have a saying for that. I've been doing so much with so little for so long, I'm not qualified to do anything with nothing anymore.
It's a good saying, right? But
that's my answer when somebody says, "Oh, how you doing?" And that's the last time they asked me a stupid fucking question.
you come home, right? I mean, let's face it. How many people are in debt? Right? I mean, if I was in front of an audience and I could say, let's see a show of hands for who's in debt, I would see fucking everybody shoot their hands up.
I'll raise my hand for every one of you listening.
Right, because the only people that aren't in debt are the rich fucking people at the top making the money off the backs of the people like us normal folk.
Or
right?
The guy living on the street eating out of a garbage can.
Yeah. Right? So, we have everybody's fucking in debt. Everybody's stressed out about their financial ability. Everybody, you go to work and you put up with bullshit all week. You work your ass off.
And what do we call this? We call this credit slavery.
Credit slavery. You come home and then with the money you make, you pay your bills. You might have some left. Maybe you'll have some left. So what do you have to do with that little bit of money you have? Well, I guess I need to relax, so I guess I'll watch a movie. I guess I'll get a video game. I guess I'll get a pizza. I guess I'll get some booze. Like, that's what we do, and then we go back and we repeat the process. Where, in the middle of this, did we have the time to actually, and the motivation? Because, like, we're fucking drained now after a week of this shit. We're depressed. We're down the dumps from this. Where did we have the motivation and the time to go out and actually do spiritual awakening? Where did we, like, when is that instilled?
The only time in my life was when I was a older teenager, when it was that balance of enough freedom and not enough responsibility, where I could go and explore spirituality and spiritualism.
Right, because real life doesn't afford you that time, and it doesn't give you that motivation. When was the last time you watched a TV show that told you to do this, or they told you the importance of doing this kind of thing, or like they even had content that would get you to ponder this kind of thing? That's not the way TV works. You watch TV and it's brand name clothing. It's the new iPhone. It's the new this. It's get this truck. There's a beautiful truck. We got a deal for you here. It's come down to fucking Pizza Delight and get this. It's all advertising.
Buy this deodorant or girls won't fuck you.
Yeah, I mean,
buy this or people will think you're ugly. Watch this or people will think you're stupid.
So it's all done in a way to, it's basically programming you, even if you're not really paying attention on a subconscious level. This is the way it's going in there, is that you need this and this and this, and the only way to get it is to pay for it. And to pay for it, you got to work, but you got to do any way to live. So you work to live and buy these little meaningless things to take your mind off how much your week sucked doing work, and then you go back and do it again. It's an endless cycle. It's an endless vicious circle. That's what it is. Does anybody really think that that is what life was meant to be? Right? Does anybody really think that that was what, God or whoever you believe created us, or the purpose of life? Do you really think that that is what we were meant to be doing here?
Are you asking me personally? Because
it's a rhetorical question. I mean, if you look at the animals, right? Animals does nature. They're just programmed to be animals, to be free. Some of them are pretty smart. I even seen a fucking elephant paint a picture of himself. Animals are a lot smarter than we give them credit for.
Sure.
But you'll never fucking see them trying to pull this kind of shit and to enslave their other species of the same kind or whatever. Sure, you'll see them fight and stuff like that. That's just part of, how they're made. But
baboons do abduct young dingo puppies and raise them as their own to protect their baboon tribes.
Well, there you go. Even that's different.
But I get what you're saying. That we seem to live a life that is outside of nature, and I mean, there are days when I would agree with that. Right? There are definitely days when I would agree with that, but then there's other times when I say to myself, well, if you are the product of just a chance chemical reaction in a primordial soup and the result of random genetic mutations over a billion years, then it really doesn't matter. Right? Now, I mean, I'm not saying that that's the case, but a case can be made for that materialistic view of things. And there may be a situation that we're in where another race of creatures who are similarly were born out of their own primordial soup just a billion years before we were, or a quarter of a billion years before we were, and showed up here and decided to do what basically what every civilization of man has ever done. You look through the history of the human race is a history of conquest and a history of enslavement. That has been true since the fall of Samaria, and as it birthed into Babylon and Egypt and turned into Iraq and Iran and the way that the world is today. I mean, that is the history of humans.
Well, I'm not going to argue that. You're right.
Even chimpanzees fight wars.
the great chimpanzee war.
The great chimpanzee war of 1905. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah. I'd watch that. If that was a movie, I'd watch that.
It was just a fucking banana massacre.
I needed that. So, like, I guess, I mean, there's just so many different ways to look at what this is, what this situation that we're in as humans. But I can tell you right now, I can't help this, and I think this all the time, that I feel like there's some kind of importance spiritually, right?
Sure.
I don't spend enough time dealing with it
or exploring it, but I mean, it's been with me forever. I mean, it's probably why I'm so interested in near-death experiences, is why I'm so, because truthfully, if we just thought that we were going to rot in the ground when we die. You're so interested in near-death experiences because it's like skipping to the end of the book?
It's like skipping to the end of the book. The thing about death is there's no escaping it. We all know we're going. Right?
Oh, I don't know. Some transhumanists, me amongst them, believe that we can transcend death one day.
I think it's possible, but I don't think we're going to see it in our lifetime.
I'm banking on it.
I know you're banking on it.
But there's a whole movement. There's a whole movement funded by billionaires and multi-billionaires.
They'll be the only ones able to afford it.
Who and the organizations that they're funding claim that right now, walking amongst us are the first immortal human beings.
So you think it's already happened?
No, I think that there are people who are alive right now who will be alive perhaps 500 years from now because the technology is right around the corner.
Okay. Well,
I mean, that's a big part of what we're talking about. We're talking about where technology and spirituality and culture and subculture all come together.
I'll say I love the idea of it because I don't think I'm ever going to be comfortable with taking that gamble of where I'm going when I die. I
hear you.
It doesn't even matter how much you read up on it, how what people's opinions or thoughts are, or people who went there.
At this point, my best case scenario is the long dark sleep of nothingness.
Yeah, I know all about what you're talking about there, and I'm scared for the same kind of nobody knows. Like, I don't think I'm a terrible person, but am I a humanitarian? Am I out in a soup kitchen every day? Am I, I squabble about my problems, but
I'll answer that question. No, you're none of those things.
I'm far from those kinds of things.
You're filled with narcissism and
narcissism
and selfishness.
Selfishness.
But you're a good guy.
Yeah, like I'm not killing people. I'm not raping people. I guess I have to look at it and be like, well, there's people far worse, but what does that really mean? Right? What does that really mean? Does that mean that you're good enough to get in this place that's supposed to be the best place in the world?
Is that your argument at the pearly gates? Well, I wasn't fucking Hitler. At least I didn't do that, God damn it.
Yeah, at least I didn't do that. So, I mean,
I wasn't Albert Fish or Richard Ramirez.
Exactly. It's like it's one of those things.
I think it's very clear. There's a whole highway to hell, but there's only a stairway to heaven. That gives you an idea of the fucking numbers we're dealing with.
Yeah, and you know, I actually saw an interesting thing recently. Now I didn't see the specifics and where it was like saying this was definitely what he was talking about, but someone had posted a video of one of Donald Trump's rants lately.
Sure.
And
one of my favorite things right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, he's entertaining. I'll give you that.
Oh man.
But he apparently had admitted that, you know, he was sided with the devil. Now, I didn't hear that part, but I do remember part of his speech is like, you know, we got more people, we got more of this, like, we're going to win, like, and just the whole way that it went along, I mean, you could fit it under that, but no, I didn't hear him say, well, but it was just the way that, I guess, the context that clip was put into and what people were saying about it, and it got me thinking, because there's a lot of people like that.
Well, that's funny you should bring up Trump, because now I've heard the exact same thing for Hillary.
Oh, yeah.
That she looks up to this author or person or personality from the past who she has quoted and cited many times. And it was one of the former presidential candidates, the neurosurgeon. Oh, geez, I can't remember his name now.
Oh, is he the guy that like found proof of death? Like he had his own near-death experience or something like that?
I'm not sure. But you know, he's definitely a religious fanatic, and he pointed out that this author that she often cites as being her inspiration gave accolades to the devil for, you know, be like, you know what, devil, good show. You know, you really rock the shit that you're involved with. So good on you. I'm going to give you your props for that. And that's a gross oversimplification and paraphrasing of what she said, but that was the basic message. And
well, I mean, Hillary is apparently one of these bloodlines, right? In fact,
Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, well, fuck, man. What a load of conspiracy there, right? I mean, you know, it doesn't even matter what you think of Trump at this point. I saw an interesting meme that, you know, it had like all these things that Hillary was caught doing, like just a huge list of things, and then on the right it was like, but for Donald Trump, it was just like he said some mean stuff and offended some people, right? And
she's been connected with the deaths of dozens of people and fraud and leaking of all kinds of stuff. And I mean, don't mistake this as an endorsement for Trump, but you know, I really do feel for America as being a member of a country that has been conquered culturally by the United States. I really do feel for that country. This is an election with no choice, and it's there's never been a choice. But in my opinion, this is my opinion now. This is an opinionated comment that I'm making. There's never been a choice. But this is the first time in history when that lack of a choice has been so apparent that it's subjectively or objectively from a citizen outside of the United States, it almost looks like that the United States as a country is tearing its hair out and beating its head against the wall, and just, you know, imploding under the realization of the only two choices that are available to them. And I mean, it was unavoidable that we strayed into the whole presidential campaign because Jesus fucking Christ, it's everywhere. It's on my phone. It's in my email. It's on my TV. You know, I'm surprised it doesn't pop up on my fucking coffee maker. But you know, when we talk about elitism and the connection with reptilians and how deep and dark that goes, this is unavoidable.
Oh yeah, well, you know, here's the thing, you know, just to echo your thoughts, to an extent, I mean, yeah, I'm a Canadian, but I love the U.S. Like I love, the culture. I love
mostly the stuff they make.
The stuff they make. I love their enthusiasm for entertainment. I love their entertainment. I love the movies. I love the music. There's a lot of music gear that I can only get in the States. I love their ingenuity. Most of our fans are actually in the States. Like, I absolutely love how enthusiastic and just appreciative for art and like just the expression of self that the United States has.
It really does have an insatiable appetite.
It does, and I absolutely love it. I could definitely see myself living in the States and loving it. I love that, people are allowed to protect themselves, that they can have a gun, they can protect their family. I'm a fan of the States. So
you can buy a gun. You just got to get a restricted gun license.
It's fucking nuts, the stuff that you got to do here. And you know what it'd be like?
Jesus, it's a 3-day course.
Yeah, but you know what? If someone broke into my house and I shot them, I'd still go to jail.
Yeah, but your wife and kid would be alive.
Yeah, but it's just the point of it. It's stupid. I like it how it is in, like, Texas. Someone fucking breaks into your house. You don't know what they're there for. You should be allowed to kill them. Don't break into my fucking house. Right? That's the way it should be. So,
the whole don't back down law.
Yeah. Like, in my opinion, if you make the choice to break into somebody's house, then you just fucking void it any say you got in what happens to you.
Well, right? That doesn't sound very Christian, William.
I don't even care. Like, when it comes to, like, my safety or my family's safety, they come first. Like, you choose to break into my house, then what happens to you is your own fault.
Yeah.
That's the way I...
And then 50 years from now, it's you standing at the pearly gate saying, well, at least I wasn't Hitler.
Hey, I think God would understand.
Yeah, because the Old Testament is filled with understanding.
Oh, well, let's not forget now how twisted and turned that was by the people, But, just getting back to where we were, I'm a fan of the United States, and I really hope that it comes to a good, things turn out good for them somehow. Like, everybody's really kind of worried of who gets in there and what's going to happen.
It definitely does seem to be the center of, if this whole scenario that we've been talking about here tonight is correct, and I have some very strong feelings that it is, or we simply wouldn't be here talking about it, then it certainly seems to me that the United States is the center of the whole reptilian regime.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Every time you're well, I'm not saying no other countries in it. They do say that the royals, like Queen Elizabeth and them
sure, but they tried the whole empire thing and failed at it, right? They took over Africa and parts of Asia and Australia and took over India and all over the world. They took over places, and then they had to, mostly because of the Second World War, they had to pull back. And then what emerged from that was this glorious shining phoenix that we call a global superpower, the first and arguably only global superpower. And that seems to be pretty indicative to me that if there are fingers behind the scene controlling the strings and all the marionettes that we call the human race, then they may indeed be based out of the United States.
So what do you think? Like, if I was to think on this from a logical standpoint, if I were to take everything that we talked about and say, like, okay, well, I think this is probably what actually is happening, right? Would you think that Satan himself would take his seat in the United States?
Well, see, my personal stance on it is that there's very little actual spiritualism involved. Now, that's just me, right? Like, I don't think there is a Satan himself. I think that if there are such things like Satan, that they are as many and as varied as such things that we call God.
So do you think that is just, instead of looking at it at an individual point of view, that there's actually teams, good versus evil?
I think that there is a royalty that has been in existence for perhaps millions of years. And now, this is something that I haven't touched on, but there are a whole series of tales that supposedly came from a group of Native American seers or elders who were let in on the actual structure of things. And that way back in the far past, going back hundreds of thousands, perhaps a million years, millions of years, there was an empire that rose, built by a race of reptilian-like creatures that began conquering the Milky Way galaxy. And that Earth is just one of millions of worlds that are going through this exact same thing. That we are living under the thumb of a patriarchy, a matriarchy, whatever. In my last reading, it was a matriarchy, so it was a female reptilian ruling over hundreds of thousands or millions of worlds. Logistically, I just can't even fathom that is the top of this pyramid, which is good imagery since we're talking about Illuminati and everything. The top of this pyramid is a vast intergalactic empire that the only thing that we have comparison to it is the empire that England had built based off of its patriarchy, matriarchy, royal family. That it's almost a mirror of what has happened in this galaxy, and that more species and races than just us are affected by this same thing. And when we talk about this stuff, we talk about it in a very personal way. But if this is the reality of the world that we live in, that we are under the thumb of a royal family of extraterrestrial beings, then it would seem to make sense that the royalty that are on Earth are probably the ones that are like the 52nd cousin down the bloodline. And they're just here to make sure this little backwater shithole does what the crown wants it to do. And that the overarching truth of the matter is that this entire galaxy, and our galaxy includes 10,000 more stars than there are grains of sand on this planet. So let that sink in for a second. 10,000 stars for times the number of grains of sand on this planet. Now, if that's the case, then there is a huge omnipower beyond the ken that we could ever understand or comprehend, that has been manipulating things, not just here, but everywhere for a very long time. And I really do, it's not that I really do believe that as much as I really could believe that.
So, if we were to go to the other route, the other line of thought, and say that there's a good versus evil, there's good reptilians, there's bad reptilians, there's good people, bad people, and there's this, as big as the war might be universally, that down on Earth there's this good versus evil kind of war.
Now, before you, I don't want to cut you off, but before you continue down that path, because I have an idea where you're going. You talk about good and evil in these two very binary absolutes.
Oh yeah, on or off.
And at the same time, just a few moments ago or minutes ago, we were talking about nature. Now, nowhere in nature do we see this binary good and evil scenario.
And that's what makes us different, right? I mean, anybody who looks at this stuff, who looks at humans as a race, and I mean, we are extremely different from every other animal on Earth. In terms of an intelligent species, there's a thing inherent in us that is very different from everything else here. It's like we're foreigners.
So you think that the one of the criteria for sentience is a sense of morality?
I mean realistically,
that they're synonymous, and that without morality there can be no true sentience.
I think choice comes from, like, you have to have an understanding. It's not just instinct, right? It can't be just like, I made a program, and the program is going to do this or that depending on, the parameters that it's given. With a person, there's this extra thing, and I guess that's where the soul comes in, the thought process, there's actual, it's not an instinctual thing. I mean, there's oftentimes we're put in situations where we have to make a decision, and we'll actually sit down and think about it. I mean, sometimes we'll dwell on it for days, and of how we want to approach it. Like we go through the different outcomes. It's not, on or off. It's not, okay, well, this is the best decision, blah, 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 done. That's not how it works. Right? There's a different thing in place. We're very different than animals in that way.
Well, morality is often described as something that is to be wrestled with. I wrestled with my morality. I wrestled with the morality of the decision. Do I let this one child die, or do I save 1,000?
Well, that's what it's all about, right? It's you actually sit down and you think about the greater good. And you also think about what can benefit you. Is always it's this balance of, are you going to sacrifice? Or are you going to put that sacrifice on somebody else? Okay. Right?
So before I interrupted you with my whole tirade, there was a question in there that you were driving at.
Well, with the, good versus evil, right?
Okay.
Like here on Earth, right? We got apparently there's spiritual war of good versus evil.
Sure.
And it almost seems, it's similar to how wars are, if you think about it to a certain degree. You got two commanding officers on each side of the war. You got God and the devil, and they're spearheading the war. But then all the troops are the ones that are in the middle of it, doing all this. Getting hurt, making a sacrifice,
doing all the killing and dying.
Doing all the killing and dying. And I started to think about what this means for, like, if you were God or if you were the devil, what is it to them? Like, what does it matter to them? Is it like, can I best you? Can you best me? Or is it from God's point of view, like, it's almost like he made people, and he believed that we would choose good over evil. And, the devil would be like, well, I believe you're wrong. I think they would choose the easy way and do my way. But the thing is, if you go with the devil, everybody who's ever said they went to hell is this terrible thing. What does the devil get if he wins? I mean, it's still a fucking terrible place. It's still hell. It's still awful. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you win a booby prize.
So is there an actual question in there for me?
Well, I mean, what is the motivation? Like, why would he care? Like, it's still going to be bad.
You know what? That is a brilliant question and observation to be made. And And simply because of my leanings, I would ask the question, but expand it to both sides.
Well,
does God simply get the bragging rights of saying, "Neener, neener, I was right. They picked good over evil," or is it that the devil gets to rub it in God's face and say, "See, I told you they weren't worth the time you fucking put into it. Now you cast me out for no reason. I refuse to bow down to your inferior creation, and they have proved my point."
That's a really good question. I mean, if you look at it from that point of view,
that's not actually a question. That's my answer.
Well,
I don't think simply because I don't think there is an answer. They're coming from the scientific side, trying to analyze the spiritual side. There simply is inefficient data.
Yeah, like I mean, when you look at it from both points of view, what's the end goal here? Like, what's it going to prove? What's it going to...
If there is a God, it would greatly benefit both his and our position for him to be a little more vocal about the fucking situation that we're in. And...
I've heard you complain about this before.
Yes. This is my problem with the idea of a great overlord deity, right? Is that if there is an end goal or desire or whatever, just fucking let the pawns in on it so we know, right? If you could whisper to your chess pieces and say, "You see that fucking bitch over there? That's the queen. we gotta get the queen. And then after we get the queen, we gotta slit the king's fucking throat," right? And that would make chess so much more amenable. But here we are in a situation where we're left to interpret things that were written down by, or that were said by people thousands of years ago and written down by people hundreds of years after they said them, and then interpret it through the cultural lens of another few thousand years. And we're sitting here with handfuls of dirt saying, "What the fuck do you want me to do?"
Yeah,
you know?
well,
and that's a scenario that we find ourselves in. And I mean, I'm not saying that there's no God, right? I'm not saying that there's no over deity. If there is, I don't think that...
You're like, where's my fucking handbook?
Well, not only that, but what I'm saying is that I think that if there is an over deity, if there is this great all-powerful Lord, I think that he is so much like us that it is terrifying.
He ate the last cupcake, damn it.
Yeah, and I kicked him out of heaven. He invented hell, and for the last 5,000 years, that's why.
Like, he should have known better. I honestly don't know, what we can expect to find, at the end of this whole thing. I'm half wondering. If
nobody does. Very few come back from the brink of darkness. Very few come back from death with a message from the Lord. Right? We've had very few examples of that. And the examples that we do have, some of them are wildly conflicting.
Yeah, it seems like...
If you ask a Muslim who came back, it'd be a different story. From a Catholic who came back, it'd be a different story. From even a Protestant to a Hebrew.
I don't know.
Is wildly conflicting.
I've read hundreds and hundreds of near-death experiences, and I know I've read some of other religions who've come back and had a terrible near-death experience and changed to Catholic. Here's the issue I have with it, though. Right, is that a lot of people, myself included, I was born into a family. Usually you pick up the religion that your family is into when you're.
Yes.
Your
that's family, your community, your province, your state, your country.
Right. That's
your
what you're
skin
taught.
color.
You're taught that is what's right, and then you're brought up with it, you believe it, and you practice it.
Sure.
So my problem is I don't find it fair to think that there would be somebody like us who was brought up, in
a small village in the middle of nowhere.
And he's taught us right, and apparently it's not, and he has this terrible, experience. And,
Here's the true conundrum. The number of gods that are currently worshipped on this planet factor in around 5,000. 5,000 different deities and gods. I'm not saying that any one is right or wrong. I'm just saying, how in the fuck are you supposed to choose or pick or decide or make an informed decision? Right? And we can't. Nobody can. We're all going off of shit that was said thousands of years ago, written down hundreds of years after that, and then regurgitated thousands of years after it was written down in various forms, in various languages, by various people.
And sometimes we know, I know that there were certain stories that were actually dug up in canisters, and it was pictures that were interpreted as stories. But let's face it, if I show you a fucking picture,
that was the genesis of some of the New Testament or some of the Old Testament stuff.
Yeah, some of it for sure. If I showed you a picture and I showed 10 different audience members a picture and I said, "Tell me what you think that means," we're going to have 10 different stories.
Not even tell me. Write down what you think that means, and then found a religion based off of it.
Yeah, we're going to find 10 completely different stories.
We're going to end up 5,000 years later with 5,000 different gods.
Like we are now, right?
Right, we are now.
So, that
there lies in, that's my problem, right? And I always get people on the internet trying to save me, right? Trying to save my soul.
Well, you do need to be saved, Ryan. If anybody's out there listening, Ryan needs to be saved.
But save me from what? Saving me with whom? Right? That's the issue that I find myself in. I am a voracious devourer of information from every corner of this planet that I can find. And the more information that I dig up, the less clear all of the spiritualism stuff gets. Which is why I normally stick to rationalism and science. Is not because I look down upon spiritualism, is that there isn't enough information for me to make any kind of a decision.
An informed decision.
And I've had the argument is that, well, it's not about informed decisions. It's about what you feel in your heart. And you know what? I've been kicking around this planet for 31 years, and my heart has been stabbed and punched and kicked and filled with poison and trampled on. I don't know what my heart feels. I go through great pains not to feel anything through that. And the only, I only talk about my own personal situation because I know that there's a million more like me.
Well, I'll tell you this, Ryan.
Am I making you sleepy? I'm sorry.
No, it's not you making me sleepy.
It's not you. It's the crack and rum.
For me, it's taken me so long to get back to where I am now. Mm-hmm. As you know, I've had my own kind of spiritual reconnection.
Sure.
And I kind of get it to a degree. I kind of there is something that I
now,
feel.
have you? To be fair, have you gone over the other 4,999 deities?
All I can tell you is that in my own personal, life, we'll say, like you, I found myself, I question everything, and at some point, I found myself at odds with the whole concept of God. And
at the crossroads, as it were. At the
crossroads, I'd gone the opposite way. For a guy who's not really religious, I did an awful lot of fucking looking into it, and I somehow found my way back here, and I know, at least for me, that when I absolutely needed help, and it's like I do think that God. I mean, I don't know if it's the Christian God or if it's the God that is in Catholic or in this. I just know that it's something, and I know that when I needed them, I got help. I don't know how, and I know it. I don't know how else to put it.
So you feel that at the end of the day, this physical, ideological, spiritual, intellectual battle that we face against a seemingly unknowable, undefeatable enemy that we represent with the word reptilian, will be conquered through faith?
Here's what I think. And I don't even think that you necessarily have to have faith. Like you said, there's going to be people that they're never even introduced to the concept, right? I mean, that's not fair for them to be damned because they never heard of it before, right? But I think that just like how we have instincts, I think that we were given, wired into us, for most of us. I think we were given the seeds of what is good. I think that we inherently know what's good and what's evil.
Well, we're a social species. We understand what it means because we live in such a complex social structure. We've learned over fucking hundreds of thousands of years that, when I throw a rock at another monkey's head, that he feels the kind of pain that I feel when I bump my head on my cave.
Right, and so I think that what it all comes down to is choice, because they say that, God made us in his image, and, in that way.
And I think that's very true. If he's out there, I think, like I said, that he is so much like us, it is fucking terrifying.
Well, it depends on, we're human, but I mean, there's really good humans. I mean, there are not a lot of them, but I mean...
Yeah, but he made us in his image, which means that we are collectively an example. We are like brain cells in the mind of God.
But we're also given free will, right? And that's where everything falls apart for most people. Do you choose to... go without so somebody else can have? Or do you,
Yes.
And I think that that's what it's about, is that we know what's right or wrong, and we make choices, and it's always a choice that affects us in a way where it's we can take a little bit of a negative experience from this, but it'll give someone else a lot more good. Are we going to take one for the team? Because when I think about, the universe and the way it works and the body, the human body, I mean, if you look in the human body, we have a bunch of blood cells and stuff like that work together as a giant system, right? Like this blood cell brings
blood cells, skin cells, liver cells, nerve cells.
Right, and they work together as a team. And
Sure.
and that's what keeps the giant, your body alive. Is what keeps it functioning. And when I look at the universe and people and all those things, and you have the same thing. You have in order for people to stay alive, we got doctors, we got mental health people, we have, basically it's a bigger example of a cell helping another cell and keeping this great system going. And I think when you look into not just the universe, but I guess the spirit, to everything, I think the idea that people, spirits, not just human but animal, other
the entire cosmology.
The entire cosmology. I think the concept and the test is that we would all work, serve in heaven. That's what they say. To serve in heaven is better than to reign in hell. And the idea, I think, is that everybody works together in this giant system for the greater good of everything, to keep it alive, to perpetuate and to keep alive the life, the life force. Whereas I think
to keep the spark lit and keep it going. So
right.
Regardless of whether we choose the reptilians or God, we are servants.
I think so, because I think we were all meant to be part of one giant system, and I think the difference with the reptilians and Satanism, really, if you want to tie those together, right? I mean, they even say that apparently that at the head of this new world order, there's going to be one ruler, right? The Antichrist or whatever, and that is not, if you look at Satanism, it's all about sacrifice. It's all about, I'll sacrifice this animal or this person and I get something. It's about what I can do for me. It's about me,
well,
me,
both sides are both sacrifice. One side is about sacrificing other things for your own gain, and one side is about sacrificing yourself
for the greater good.
For the greater good.
And in the Satanism side, the evil side of doing it for myself, that system would collapse, because if you're only serving yourself and you're one person versus many, right? That's what happens. Is it collapses.
But is that not the system in which nature bases itself upon?
No, I don't think
every part of nature serves itself, and in doing so serves a greater whole.
No. It's not a greater whole if I sacrifice someone so that I can win the lottery.
No, but I'm saying nature. Right?
Nature's kind of a gray area to a degree. I think when we look at people, I think, like, again, that touch of soul, that touch of something that we have that's different from the animal kingdom.
So are you telling me that all dogs don't go to heaven?
No, I think, I often wonder about reincarnation. Right, the idea that, okay, you didn't make a very good human, but maybe you'd
make a great iguana.
Maybe if we put you back as an iguana, you learn more and you can go up the ranks until eventually. Because that was a whole theory too, is that you come here as like the most basic of an animal. You could be a fly. You go through your life, you learn what you need, you step up, and eventually we transcend even Earth. We go to other planets. We go here, and the idea.
That's one of the theories on the reptilians, right? Is that they're a extremely low vibration being that has done their damnable best over centuries, thousands, millions of years,
and their best was just no damn good.
To stay mired in the three dimensions. The three physical dimensions and the one temporal dimension, and that in doing so, they've spread out and dragged the rest of the galaxy down with them.
Oh, it could very well be. I mean, that's the thing. Like, when you're talking about higher and lower vibrational energy, of course, like the lower vibrational energy, it goes to what its nature is, and lower vibrational energy is familiar and calm in doing bad, lesser things. I mean, that's what it is.
Self-serving, instant gratification kind of things.
Right, and I mean, even that's what Satanism is. It's like, yeah, I'll sign your fucking contract to give you whatever I want. Now give me $1 million. And in the other side of things, what do? We work our ass off, and we don't get as much, but we appreciate it. There's no easy road. You work for it, right? And I just think that, like, when it comes to the reptilians and the lower vibrational, the whole idea of self-serving and stuff like that. I look at it like a cancer, right? Like if you had cancer in your leg, right? What do doctors do? Like, well, they'll try chemo, they'll try this, they'll try that. But if they don't think that that's going to work, they'll chop it out, right? And if you look at the universe or the cosmology in that same way, and you look at this group of spiritual entities that are self-serving, they destroy the cells around it, they destroy the being that we are all interweaved into, what would you do? You chop it out. And where would you chop it out? Well, you know what? Those fucking things can't exist here. They damage all of it. We send them to hell.
So you're an advocate for nuking planet Earth.
Nuking planet Earth?
I think at the end of it, and really, this is a discussion that really could go on for 15, 16 hours, because the reptilian phenomenon is one that I shouldn't say the reptilian phenomenon. I think at this point we've established that this is the planet Earth phenomenon. This is a situation that we are likely dealing with. And whether you want to focus on the physical aspects or the spiritual aspects, the end result is the net result is the same. We seem to be presided over by a body of dark entities, and whether those entities are mired in a physical or metaphysical or a hybrid of the two kind of a realm, again, the net result is the same. And we as individuals have to make decisions, everyday decisions, that not only impact us in the short term, but impact the entire human race in the long term. And it behooves us to look deeper into the political and sociological machinations that we are surrounded by, and to go deeper all the time, to look deeper, to transcend our own selfish biological selves, even if it's just time to time, to look at the bigger picture, and to really decide if we want to live in a, even if reptilians don't represent an actual physical thing, and it turns out that reptilians exist only in a ideological sense, then again the net result is the same, and that we as individuals have a choice to make daily and by the minute, and that as we make those choices, that we determine the future course of not only ourselves and our families and our communities, but of our entire human race.
And the other thing, I guess, that we could, we have to look at, because it seems like the end of times and, the Antichrist taking his throne here on earth and Jesus' second coming, it seems like, it's kind of been presented in a way where it's going to happen, like it's already decided it's going to happen. And just like how they say time is an illusion, that, I guess any entity that could travel through time would know the course of events that are going to happen. So that being the case, and the only thing we have is free will, I guess would be to make that decision. When that time comes, are you going to take that chip, or are you going to see what happens and hope to get raptured? Right? So with that being said, I think we can conclude this episode, which I believe is going to be 2 parts. And again, there's many topics in here that we could branch off on another show. I mean, Bohemian Grove,
Anunnaki, Nephilim.
and a variety of other ones. So again, a really, really giant topic is one of the reasons that we took our time on it. And of course, the other one was, as you know now, I was recording an album before my son is born. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. And now that we're getting back into the full swing of things, if you have an effed up story of your own, I'd love to get it into a podcast and on on the website, which you can do by going to effedupstories.com. That's EFFEDUPSTORIES.com. And I'd also love to give you some free music and a wallpaper and a ringtone. So definitely check out the album I got that's going to be on this channel that you can stream it. Go onto my Facebook, Will Pender Rocks. Find the post, Will Pender Bad Wiring. Share it, like it. I'll send you some free stuff. And you can also buy the album on willpender.net. And at the end of next week, you'll find it on iTunes and all the other main online music stores. So, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we got lots of new stuff coming your way. So stay tuned for that.
Thank you so much for bearing with us but on this topic. I hope everybody has a fantastic evening.
Well, you're jolly. All right, I'm gonna wish you a well evening too. All right, good night, everybody.